Yo.
What's going on, guys?
Welcome back to Into the Pit. We haven't made an episode in a while, so here we are. I'm Hellhound.
I'm Dr. Gutts.
And we were going to talk about Morbid Angel's discography, but I don't own Kingdom's Disdained quite yet. That's their newest album, seeing the return of bassist vocalist Steve Tucker. As soon as I acquire that album, we will be doing a video chronicling all of their albums in order. So I'd feel a little incomplete if I didn't have that one with us. So we're going to do something different. We're going to go ahead and do our top 5 death metal albums. Our top 5 favorite death metal albums of all time. We previously did top 5 thrash metal albums, black metal albums, and figured,
absolutely.
Only makes sense.
Figured if we weren't going to do a full Morbid Angel video, let's do a death metal video anyways.
Something death metal
and get
related.
our top 5 death metal albums out there into the ether and see what you guys think. See what your guys' top 5 death metal albums are.
Let us know in the comments below what your top 5 death metal albums are. And this is a very hard list to make because there's so many good ones, and lots of them found their way in and out of my list. And hell, my list is probably subject to change as well. But
yeah, we were talking about that before the video, actually. Looking back at, say, our top 10 video, things like that, it's like everything's bouncing in and out. Yeah. My top 10, is not even nearly the same as my top 10 from the video we did, what, 2 years
already
ago
changed,
at this point?
Yeah.
It's been a while. But it's, for instance, Autopsy, Separate Survival would have been in there, things like that. I didn't think of at the time. When you compile these lists, or some things you just don't think of, and you're just like, oh yeah, that's a thing I like.
And it was very difficult to narrow it down to 5 as well.
Absolutely. But we figured we'd go ahead and knock out these top 5 death metal albums of all time.
That's right. So let's get started. All right, this is my number 5. Would be Cause of Death by Obituary. Now, I had to have something by Obituary in there for sure. It was a tough one between this and Slowly We Rot, but I don't want Cause of Death because I think it's... I find myself listening to this one ever so slightly more. They're a great death metal band. It actually took me a little longer...
Oh, no. Death metal.
Speaking of death metal... it took me a little longer to get into them. John Tardy's vocals in particular were kind of an acquired taste, but now I think they're phenomenal. I think he's awesome. He's a little reminiscent. His voice is a little reminiscent of Chuck Schuldiner, a little bit. Somewhat. It's a little more screechy, a little less guttural, and kind of more. Kind of more of a shriek. It almost sounds like he's about to vomit.
Yeah, it's got a weird, warped sound to it. I can't really explain it, but it's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, there he is right there. He looks like an evil D. Snyder. His brother Donald Tardy's the drummer. They've had a lot of great guitarists over the years. James Murphy and Frank Watkins was on bass. And then he actually went to Gorgoroth. Not too long ago. He replaced King of Hell, so do that what you will. But yeah, Obituary is a great band. Cause of Death is a great album. If you're a death metal fan, you've got to add this to your collection for sure. And I think it's my number 5 for a very good reason.
I love Obituary. For me, this and Slowly Rot are kind of just they go hand in hand. I love them both about equally. I would say Cause of Death probably be my choice as well when it comes to those 2 albums. Not by much, but by a little bit. I think every song is a little more consistent on this album than, say, Slowly We Rot. Slowly We Rot's got a little bit where it's not as creative, I guess I could say, for a few songs, or just a few song parts, whereas Cause of Death is just a monster through and through. I
agree with that. It's got songs like Infected, Body Bag, Chopped in Half, Circle of Tyrants, which is a cover of Celtic Frost.
It's a killer cover.
A very good cover of a very good Celtic Frost song. But yeah, number 5, Cause of Death.
So for my number 5, it would actually be Morbid Angel, Altars of Madness.
Oh yeah.
So this was a hard choice. I was kind of torn between this and actually Left Hand Path by Entombed. Those were very, very close for me. I was also torn from which Morbid Angel album. I was going to go with either Altars or Covenant because I really love both those albums. But I think I'm going to go with Altars, and it's simply because of the vocals on Altars might be my favorite vocals of all time.
Very unique. That raspy hiss.
It's so unique. It's so weird and demonic sounding. Plus Maze of Torment.
And he didn't have that on the later albums either.
Yeah. And Maze of Torment's my favorite Morbid Angel song.
Immortal Rights. Chapel of Ghouls.
Yeah, Lord of All Fever and Plagues.
Yes, great
Maze of Torment, that was the song that got me into Morbid Angel. And it's still to this day my favorite Morbid Angel song. And I think front to back, Alters is my favorite Morbid Angel album. I mean, it's just so killer. I can sit there with the book of lyrics and listen to that album from front to back without skipping a thing, just enjoying the music, enjoying the lyrics, enjoying the vocals. It's just borderline flawless album, to be completely honest with you. I wish Morbid Angel would have stuck with this sound a little bit longer.
Absolutely.
That would have been killer.
Yeah.
But that being said, Blessed and Covenant are both incredible albums.
For sure.
We'll get to more of that on our Morbid Angel discussion. But Altars of Madness, my number 5, killer album.
Great choice. Altars of Madness by Morbid Angel was actually in my list, but I purposely took it out only because I wanted a little more variety. I didn't want us to have too many repeats. I didn't want us to have the same albums on our list, because there was another album that was that is in both our lists that I couldn't take out. It was it's irrefutable.
I mean, you guys can probably guess it early.
You're probably know what we're talking about, but
you'll find out if you
can't
guess for some reason.
But anyway, my number 4 would be Legion by Deicide. Now, this is another band that I knew had to be in my list, but I couldn't quite choose between this, their self-titled debut, Once Upon the Cross, or even Stench of Redemption, which I think is very underrated.
Stench of Redemption's awesome.
Yeah, it gets a lot of crap. I love that album, like everybody says. But I'll go with Legion as their best one. I think this is their best work. This is when they had the Hoffman brothers on dual lead guitar. Glenn Benton and Steve Ashheim had a lot of fresh ideas. I mean, we got Satan Spawn, Dead by Dreaming, Repent to Die, Behead the Prophet, No Lord Shall Live, Holy Deception. Great songs. Very brutal album.
Not a bad song on the album.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's probably my second favorite Deicide album. Like, Once Upon the Cross gets a little nod for me. But
it's a close one. Yeah, Glenn Benton's actually my second favorite death metal vocalist of all time, and next to George Fisher. And I know he gets a lot of crap for layering his vocals too much, but he's definitely talented. And I think the fact that he can, the way he shifts between those low, more like gutturals to those high pitched shrieks and those like raspy screeches, I think he does it with such precision, such ease. It just sounds amazing. And he's a pretty good bass player as well. And I think drummer Steve Ashheim writes most of the music. He's a hell of a songwriter.
Yeah, Steve Ashheim, incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Great drummer, too. For sure.
He's got a few other bands as well. I can't think of the names right now. They escape me. But he does awesome work in everything.
Yeah, he's very diverse, too.
Absolutely.
He can do quite. He's probably one of my favorite. He's definitely one of my favorite death metal drummers.
Yeah, he's up there for me too.
For sure.
He's phenomenal. Glenn Benton, incredible vocalist. Again,
Absolutely.
the Hoffman brothers, they made a killer combination.
Yeah, it's a shame they're not with them
especially on this record. Yeah, that would be killer. I guarantee you, if they rejoined the band, they have some more fresh ideas and be able to turn out some more.
Their last few albums were not that great. Not terrible.
They were alright. They were passable, but they weren't like they don't stand out.
They don't live up to their early
Once Upon the Cross.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'd
say Legion would be my number 4.
So for my number 4, I'm going to go with Death Shall Rise by the Almighty Cancer.
Good choice.
Now, Cancer for me is one of those bands that they seem to not get the amount of recognition that I feel they should. It seems like a lot of people don't even know who Cancer are, and if you don't, look them up. They have 3 killer albums, and Death Shall Rise is my favorite of all of them. It is so good. It starts out with Hung Drawn Quartered, which is one of, if not my favorite song of all time. It has some of the most insane riffs you'll ever hear. Amazing, amazing vocals. I don't know the names of any of the musicians in Cancer, to be honest with you, but I just know that I love them. I love this album. So Hung Drawn Quarter has this one part where it picks up, and there's just killer triplets on the drums, and it's one of the most amazing things I've ever heard in any death metal song. It's so cool. And not just that song, the whole album, it just shines through. And that's the opener. And the whole album is just as good as that song. It's front to back, nearly flawless album. I don't know what I would change. It's so good. The guitar tone's amazing. The riffs are amazing. The vocals are just so good. If you haven't listened to Death Shall Rise, I would say definitely check it out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Cancer's a little lesser known than some of these other bands. I don't own any of their albums, which I need to fix ASAP.
I'm pretty sure they're a little harder to find, but they're out there. You can find them.
Yeah,
Discogs.
Yeah.
Shout out to Discogs for giving me all the things I want.
All right, well, for my number 3, you knew this was coming. Had to have something by Cannibal Corpse.
Yes.
And when it came to Cannibal Corpse, it was a hard choice between Tomb of the Mutilated, or Tomb of the Mutilated. So, naturally...
Which one did you go with?
I narrowed it down to Tomb of the Mutilated.
Okay.
So, it was a tough one between all those.
I probably would have went with Tomb of the Mutilated, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so, too.
To be completely honest.
Again, it was a close one. It was a close one. But yeah, oh gosh, where do I even start? This is back when they had Chris Barnes.
Oh, I know where you start. Hammer Smash Face.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, Hammer Smash Face, I Come Blood, Addicted to Vaginal Skin, Split Wide Open, Necro Pedophile, The Cryptic Stench, Entrails Ripped from a Virgin's Cunt. Yeah, that's the actual name of the song. I guarantee if you say, all you gotta do is... Every song should start out with that. Every song ever made should start with that opening. I guarantee you, just read these song titles aloud to your grandmother and she'll probably faint. If not, it's something worse. But yeah, this is back when they had Chris Barnes. This was their third album. And you know, while I do prefer George Fisher only when it comes to vocals, vocal performance alone, I prefer George Fisher's voice over Chris Barnes. I talked about this ad nauseum. But when it comes to literally anything else, I'd give the edge to Barnes. Better lyricist, better songwriter. He was kind of more one of them too. He was definitely a sick guy. He actually wrote the lyrics, unlike George Fisher. And yeah, he was a very sick guy. He was really into horror movies, which you can definitely tell, even though some of these lyrics are way sicker than any horror movie you're ever going to see. Way more graphic, way more gruesome. Just, you know, very gory, a little cartoonish, but in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and like obviously they don't take themselves very seriously. It's kind of like the audio equivalent to a horror movie, which is cool. They don't really have very meaningful themes in their writing, but that's what I like. That's what I like.
What do you mean? He comes blood.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah, post-mortal ejaculation. What was I thinking?
I love Tomb of the Mutilated. Yeah. For me, it actually would have been a toss-up between Tomb of the Mutilated, and Butcher to Birth.
Yeah.
I would have to add that one in there.
Yeah, Butcher to Birth is great, too.
I love Butcher to Birth as well, but Tomb of the Mutilated is the quintessential Cannibal Corpse album. If somebody was like, "Whoa, what's a Cannibal Corpse?" I would show them. I would show them this album.
Tomb of the Mutilated is definitely where they should start.
It's a flawless album. It is a flawless album.
I actually started from Eaten Back to Life, which is their debut album.
Again, amazing.
A great album for sure. But I think it took me a little longer to get into them. When I first bought that album, I wasn't quite ready for death metal yet. This was years ago. But I think Tomb of the Mutilated kind of sealed the deal. It really got me into them. And yeah, as I said, this was back when they had they still had Bob Rousset and Jack Owen. Both of them are gone now. Alex Webster. I do that every time. I went to school with a guy named Alex Barrett, and Cannibal Corpse has Alex Webster and Rob Barrett, I always do that. But yeah, Alex Webster is my favorite death metal bassist of all time by far. He's incredible, so and he's a really cool guy too. He seems really down to earth. He doesn't have an ego. Articulate. Yeah, he doesn't have an ego at all. He's not arrogant. He's just a really, really cool guy. He seems like a cool guy to chill with. And Paul Mazurkiewicz, his drumming on his album is really good too. Yeah, yeah, for real. And his drumming is definitely the backbone of their sound. And yeah, Tomb of the Mutilated, as he said, is definitely the definitive Cannibal Corpse album in a lot of ways. Definitely give it a listen. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've already heard it plenty of times, but
we've talked about it numerous times. I prefer the Barnes era. I like Corpse Grinder.
I do too.
I think he's an incredible vocalist.
Musically, I prefer them musically.
The Barnes era for me is untouchable.
I just think George Fisher has a better voice. That's it. It ends there. I think Chris Barnes was more inspirational, more innovative, more influential. Nobody could do those low gutturals the way he could.
But yeah, it was just incredible. Tomb is just what else can we say about it? It's one of the greatest albums of all time. I didn't add it to my list. It would have made my list, but I had 5 albums I wanted to squeeze in front of it, so that's why I didn't make the list.
It better be in your top 10.
It was very close. It's absolutely my top 10. It's probably number 6, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely.
But I had to pass by to add these 5 albums, including my number 3, which is considered dead by
Gore Gutts.
Which,
fuck yeah,
this album is one of the heaviest creations ever. It's incredible. Luc Lemay is just above and beyond almost every other writer in any subgenre of metal. He is so good. You look at Considered Dead, it's a thrashier take on death metal, that early death metal style, which is my personal favorite type of death metal, is that early, like, thrashier death metal.
Late 80s,
early 90s. Yeah, and this album completely delivers. And then, they transition from here into a little more technical, and some of the stuff now, while still being really good, is more dissonant style death metal. So Luc Lemay can really do it all. And on this album, he really shows it. It has probably my personal favorite song ever written, Inoculated Life, which is the closer of the album. It has maybe the best riff of any song of all time in it. And that by itself could just sell this album as my number 3, but it doesn't have to, because the whole album holds up. The whole album is just phenomenal. Like, phenomenal, 10 out of 10, perfect album. I mean, it's got not just Inoculated Life, it's got Stiff and Cold and so many other incredible tracks. it starts out with a cool little composition by Luc Lemay. Not a metal thing, but more of like just a cool intro that's kind of eerie. It gives it a good vibe, then kicks into Stiff and Cold, which is just incredibly heavy. It's just such a killer death metal release. It's quintessential early 90s, late 80s death metal.
Really awesome artwork too, with like the coffin stuff in the red, like
the colors are just so cool.
The purples and the greens, and it's a hard CD to find. It's kind of rare. It's kind of obscure. Like they have the double. They had Considered Dead, and I think maybe their second album or an EP or something on a double feature, but just the single
it's
individual
find,
Considered Dead is hard to find. I've been looking for that for you. So if you own it, lucky you. Feel free to send me your copy.
I am actually in the process of looking for the original pressing of the vinyl.
The vinyl.
However,
that'd be sick to have
the original pressing of the vinyl was only released in the Netherlands.
Oh wow!
They didn't release it anywhere else.
Might be even hard to find in the CD.
So it's very hard to find. I found one that's around $160.
Oh wow!
So I will probably work on getting that to my collection very soon.
Yeah, I need that in my collection too. It's whatever I don't care what format it's on. I need that in my collection.
They re-released it.
That would have been in my top 10
in 2016, and you can grab a vinyl from that.
Yeah.
But I want the original pressing from that Netherlands copy. That's like that's my white whale right now, and I need to get a hold of that. But that's for sure. Considered Dead #3. It's
Gorguts rules. I think that's their finest album. I don't think they were ever quite. I don't think they ever quite achieved that greatness again. I think the first album was kind of their best outing. I don't think they ever really.
Origin of Sanity was awesome.
Yes,
but it was Considered Dead. It's just untouchable. It's so good. And then Obscura was where they started getting like that more technical style, which is cool too. It's just Considered Dead is just a far better album in my opinion than anything they've ever done since. Colored Sands was cool. That's when they got all dissonant. And it has it's like every song. It sounds like you're in like an Egyptian tomb.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Pretty cool.
But Considered Dead is just that's where it's at for me.
Absolutely,
100%.
for sure. My number 2 was you had Morbid Angel and Altars of Madness as your number 5, right? Well,
I did.
That was in my list, literally, but I took it out only because I wanted more variety, and so I went with Covenant. Again, Altars of Madness probably should be in this spot, but
either way,
Covenant is probably my second favorite album by them.
Same.
Yeah, really, Altars should be here because of that, as you said, that awesomely raspy hiss that David Vincent had.
That's what
he kind of lost that and kind of had a more of a generic growl.
That being
on the
said,
albums, but it's still awesome.
He does it on one song on here.
Yeah.
On was it Angel of Disease?
Angel of Disease. Angel of Disease.
Angel of Disease literally sounds like it was on like B-side or something of Altars of Madness.
Yeah, and I think that was actually re-recorded. I think that was a song they had before when they had Mike Browning on drums and vocals. Don't quote me on this, but it might be one of the ones that was on Abominations of Desolation. Don't quote me on that because I'm not for sure on that, but I know they recorded a few of those songs that was on that album for their main studio releases, and that might have been one. And I think I actually, there for a while, I thought that Trey Adzik, though, who's my second favorite death metal guitarist after obviously Chuck Schuldiner, I thought he was actually the one that did vocals on that song because it sounds so different from the rest of it. It sounds like an older David Vincent performance, so I'm not really sure on that one. Maybe I should have done my research, but
it literally sounds like Altars of Madness era Morbid
Angel. Like they could have
recorded smack dab in the middle of Covenant, which is really cool to hear.
But this is unquestionably my second favorite album of them. Definitely the Vincent era anyway. It's got Rapture, Pain Divine, World of Shit, Vengeance is Mine, Lion's Den.
God of Emptiness.
Oh yeah, that's a great song. He actually,
the best closer ever.
That's probably my favorite clean vocal on a death metal song. Every other bow to me faithfully. That part is awesome. It just gives me chills every time. Yeah, this is a great album. This you gotta have this. I know it's a very obvious choice, but for good reason. Morbid Angel rules. Covenant is just.
It's an obvious choice because it's a classic.
Yeah, exactly.
And
There's a reason classic. For it. Yeah.
It's every track on this album is flawless.
Yeah,
Lion's Den's one of my favorite songs of all time. Angel of Disease, again, God of Emptiness. It's just so good, amazing. Man. Like and funny enough, there was a period of time a few years back where I was just listening to Altars. That was it. Like I forgot how good Covenant was.
Yeah.
And then actually you mentioned Covenant one day. I was like, all right, I'll listen to it again. And then I was like, wow, I forgot that this is one of the greatest albums ever made.
It features
so good.
Yeah, it features some of Trey Adsik's best songwriting.
Without a doubt.
And again, the spot probably should have had Altars, but I wanted a little more variety, a little more diversity, so I switched it out. But either way, you can't go wrong with either one, so I'll still stand by that as my number 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Morbid Angel rules.
And then
we'll get more on that on our next video.
Absolutely. So my number 2 is the only death metal album, in my opinion, that can stand head-to-head with Death. And it is Autopsy's Severed Survival. So, Severed Survival is one of those albums that you hear it as a death metal fan, as a metal fan in general, and it never leaves like your head.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. Every track on the album is a 10 out of 10. They're all completely memorable. It's just... I can't even put into words how amazing it is. I saw Autopsy live, and it reinforced that point for me. Like, Ridden with Disease is one of the finest songs ever written. I mean, it's so good. The lyrics in this album are some of the most disgusting I have ever heard in my life.
Some of them give Cannibal Corpse a run for their money.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, he's talks about like pus dripping from their mouth and all this stuff. It's incredible stuff. Disgusting lyrics. Some of the best riffs in death metal. Of course, it has Chris Refair, who
fresh out of Death, right after Scream Bloody Gore.
Leaves Death, Scream Bloody Gore as the drummer.
Forms Autopsy
as
the vocalist and drummer,
and sings, and puts out one of the finest death metal releases you can ever listen to.
He's got Eric Cutler and Danny Corrales, two of the most underrated guitarists ever. They never run out of ideas for riffs. Like, their riffs are just like again, use Cannibal Corpse as another example. They give Cannibal Corpse a run for their money with some of their really creative riffs. Like, wow, yeah.
No, this album has some of the greatest death metal riffs ever. I honestly can't even put it into words how much I truly love this album.
I do too.
Chris Refair's vocals are just so insane. They are perfect in every way. His highs, his lows. He's got good mid range as well.
Vocalist.
Perfect death metal vocals.
And drummer too.
These are perfect death metal songs. It's a flawless 10 out of 10 album.
It opens with Charter Remains and it just grabs you by the balls and never lets go through the whole album. It's just a great listening experience.
Yeah, the entire album is just... I know you've heard it if you're watching this. If you haven't heard it, do it.
Yeah, right now.
Just pause this video.
Stop this video and go listen to Autopsy.
First, stop this video, give it a thumbs up, then go listen to Autopsy. And you will not be disappointed. It is
absolutely
one of the greatest metal records. One of the greatest records, period.
Yeah, it pains me that I didn't have Autopsy on this list. It was very close. In fact, Mental Funeral, which I'll talk about in a minute, would have been my number 6. And it found its way in and out of this list. So it's a close one between us. It's a close one. All right, well, before we reveal our number 1 pick, we both have the same number 1, by the way. You probably already know what it's going to be. Here's a few honorable mentions, real quick. Seven Churches by Possessed. A lot of people credit this as the very first death metal album. It came out in 1985. And it actually features Larry Lalonde, who went on to play guitar for Primus. Bet a lot of you didn't know that. The guitarist of Primus used to be in Possessed. And Jeff Becerra, who was on bass and vocals, poor guy's in a wheelchair now. But he's still rocking. He's still rocking, yeah. He's often credited as being one of the very first death metal vocalists. He, along with Chuck Schuldiner, Chris Barnes, Cam Lee, and a few others. Jeff Becerra definitely pioneered that style. He's very innovative, and this album is a testament to that. The very early. If you want to hear what early death metal sounds like, definitely check this out. Sadly, they never really quite made another great album after this, in my opinion.
Seven Churches is the only Possessed album that I'm really big on.
Exactly, yeah.
To be honest.
Was it Beyond the Gates or whatever? Whatever that next one was is okay, but
the album cover is pretty cool.
I just love...
It's not as good as Seven Churches.
Yeah, Seven Churches is great. That probably would have been... this has definitely been my top 10, and it almost made it to my top 5, too. But, again, I'm not like a huge fan of Possessed, but what they did for death metal is definitely...
undeniable.
Exactly. And that is a great album. And again, this is kind of the only great one they ever did.
And I think it was a little
definitely stands the test of time.
A little thrashier than it was death metal.
For sure.
And it was kind of like the building blocks to which Chuck Schuldiner...
It was kind of before death metal, really.
It was kind of like the building blocks to which Chuck Schuldiner took to build death metal.
Absolutely.
And if you listen to like Scream Bloody Gore...
They started it, he perfected it.
If you listen to like Scream Bloody Gore, it's essentially like Seven Churches, but way better.
Essentially,
to be completely honest, that's what it is.
Yeah, we mentioned Autopsy, Severed Survival, like he said. Here's that special edition with a different cover.
Another thing about that, I know I've talked about it a lot, but like some of the song names on that album, like Service for a Vacant Coffin.
Oh yeah, Disembowel, Gasping for Air, Ridden with Disease, Pagan Savior, Impending Dread, Critical Madness.
Gasping for Air is like some of the most disgusting lyrics.
Great riff too. Then also...
Disembowel has the coolest vocal part I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. Or when he yells Disembowel, it's the coolest thing ever.
Hell yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and then Mental Funerals. I think I prefer this one like by a hair over Severed Survival. It's a close one. That's a great album. I think Severed Survival, I think, had Steve DiGiorgio on bass, too. Possibly. If I'm not mistaken.
He's been in literally everything.
Yeah, exactly. So that's awesome.
Very possible.
Yeah. And then Macabre Eternal, which I thought was like, this is the best reunion album I've ever heard. It's a return to form. It was after the end. I didn't like their, Shit Fun or Actually Unspeakable.
That was weird.
This was awesome. This was,
that was weird.
This might have been, this was just as good as Severed Survival and Mental Funeral. This was definitely a welcome return to form. I love it.
I will debate you on that one. Okay, it's good, though. It's good, though. It's really good.
Turn Against Hacksaws and Graves, and their other recent ones are really good, too. I think that was my favorite of their newer ones, honestly.
I think that one's my least favorite of their newer ones, but I still like it. So, I mean, it's still good. It's not
either way.
It's not that it's a bad album. It's a good album, absolutely.
Either way, Autopsy rules.
Autopsy's how you incredible.
Cut it. Yeah, of course, Left Hand Path by Entombed. Had to put that on here. That was very... this almost made my top 5.
Almost made mine as well.
But definitely made my top 10.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Scream Bloody Gore by Death, of course.
The original.
The very first Death album. Had to put that in here. Altars Madness, which we already talked about. Morbid Angel, Blessed of the Sick. My favorite Steve Tucker fronted album, Gateways to Annihilation. I think this is by far the best one that had Steve Tucker.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
And the best one since Covenant, too, I might add.
We'll talk about that more.
Yeah,
I don't
more on that. Yeah, stay tuned. More on that later. Slowly We Rot by Obituary. That was almost
Slowly We Rot, the title track, one of the greatest riffs of all time. Without a doubt.
By far. Yeah. Eaten Back to Life, Gore Obsessed, Wretched Spawn. Yeah, and pretty much anything by Cannibal Corpse deserves an honorable mention, except for Visceration Plague.
Kill Part 2?
Yeah. yeah. Deicide, the self-titled, Once Upon the Cross, which almost, great albums. Deicide rules. I really like Atheist. This is their first album, Piece of Time. I think they're kind of underrated. I think they're actually really good. I think they don't get the credit they deserve. I think they're actually like way better than a lot of people say. I really like Atheist.
Yeah, like we were talking about before. Atheist is the band that I don't dislike them. I'm just not a technical death metal guy.
Yeah, I can see
But I think they are incredible musicians.
Absolutely.
Fantastic songwriters, are just not my cup of tea, per se.
They kind of remind me like if like Metallica was more death metal. I think that's what Metallica, like kind of more brutal. I think that's where then you have Atheist. The good Metallica, I mean, like the early Metallica.
Yeah, St. Anger.
Yeah. Carcass, Symphonies of Sickness.
Yes.
A lot of people say it's grindcore. It's death metal.
It's gore grind. It's a fine line, right? It's right there. So I mean, Carcass is incredible. Necrosis is artwork.
Love Carcass.
Like Surgical Steel, amazing.
I didn't like Rika Putrefaction. I know the production quality sucks, but that's grindcore. Yeah. None Survive by Cryptopsy. Gotta put that in there. It's back in the hand. Lord Worm.
Blasphemies Made Flesh. I like.
That's another great album. Better. I also have debut.
But None So Vile.
Open Face Surgery.
So good. Yeah, Open Face Surgery. That 27-second scream, and I think it's
before they became metalcore.
I think it's the final track, Pathological Frolic. It's one of my favorite songs ever. If you try to read the lyrics along with it, you'll die laughing because he does not say that.
Yeah.
He's like, bleh, 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 bleh. And apparently he says, "Who is this, Jeffrey?" No, negative. That's not.
He's one of the most indecipherable vocalists.
And I love it. Yeah. I love it so much.
Understand a word
I love Lord Worm and I love early Cryptopsy. The first 2 albums, amazing.
Yeah,
Beyond that, they don't exist.
Another indecipherable vocalist, Ross Dolan. Yeah, Immolation. Here and After. Immolation's great. Love Immolation.
I'm just going to have a conversation with you real quick. Hold on a second, video. I saw Immolation like a month, not even a month ago, a few weeks ago.
And he didn't take me with him.
Oh my God, Immolation, let me tell you.
Shame.
I loved Immolation beforehand. Seeing them live blew my mind.
Oh, absolutely.
If you haven't seen Immolation live, do it. They are an incredible live band. They ended with Dawn of Possession, the title track.
Hell yeah.
Which is my favorite album by them.
Yes.
And my God.
I didn't get my hands on that.
Remember I told you how mine got destroyed?
Yeah. Very sad
I had
story.
A copy of Dawn of Possession and it got destroyed, so that sucks. But Immolation, incredible live band. See them, ASAP. amazing.
Yeah, Suffocation. Here's the first album, Effigy of Forgotten. I love Suffocation. They're awesome. Frank Mullen's a great vocalist. Terrence Hobbs and Guy Marquez, they're really talented. Vital Remains. I think they don't get enough praise. A lot of people say, "Oh, Glenn Benton's in it." No, he was just in their last 2 albums. He's a session member. I liked when they had Jeff Greslin on vocals, and then Joe Lewis, the bass player, he took up vocals. Yeah. Then that guy named Thor. I think they were all really good. They're not amazing, but I figured they deserve a mention at least. Yeah, but anyway,
Vital Remains, good band.
Great band.
I think they're a little underrated. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think they're underrated. All right, our number one choice. Was there any doubt? Leprosy by Death.
The greatest metal release of all time, in my opinion. Of any subgenre.
For death metal, I'd say.
It transcends for me. Yeah. It's so good. Oops. I recently got my hands on an original 1988 Combat Records pressing on vinyl, and it is like my new prized possession. Sounds so good. This album is home to my favorite songs ever written: Leprosy, Open Casket,
Forgotten Past,
Born Dead. Like it's the most incredible album.
It had Rick Ross on second guitar, Bill Andrews on drums.
Rick Ross went on to be in Massacre as well, which is another incredible death metal band.
Terry Butler's credited as bass, but I actually heard that Chuck Schuldiner played bass for this album. I don't know if that's true or not, but whoever played bass, they did a phenomenal job.
Chuck or Terry.
Yeah. Whoever did it, good job. Chuck Schuldiner's a god. Yeah. I've reviewed this album on my channel. We've talked about this album
so much.
Plenty,
let's be real. If there's a death metal list or any top list that I'm involved in, Leprosy's number one.
Leprosy's going to be in there somewhere.
That's just how it works. It's, in my opinion, the greatest album ever written. Hands down.
Absolutely. I can agree with that.
It's so good, start to finish. The artwork, we haven't talked about the artwork, I guess. So
yeah, that's something
the artwork is incredible. The colors, the pinks and the shades of purple. With
it's a beautiful work of art.
The leper, the people in the background. Ed Repka did the art, of course. He's probably my favorite artist of all time when it comes to artwork.
He's definitely up there.
I mean, he's made killer stuff from like death to like literally, if it's death or thrash metal, you name it, he's probably done a cover for him.
Yep.
And it's always amazing too.
Absolutely.
So yeah, guys, that's it. That's our top 5 death metal list with some honorable mentions. A lot of honorable mentions.
A lot.
Because we love us some death metal around here on Into the Pit.
Oh, yeah. You got that right.
As we said, guys, the next episode will be Morbid Angel. Leave your lists down below.
In the comments below.
And make sure you leave a like.
And stay tuned. We'll talk more about Morbid Angel.
Absolutely. And as always, guys, keep it metal.
Later.